Yeah.
Okay. So we'll continue with locators actually. So we know general locators, right? In Selenium. What are the general locators that you people are aware of? We all everyone know that we have that ID, right? ID, name, xpath, CSS selector, uh, link text, partial link text, and anything else that I have missed? I think one more thing is there, right? Okay. Um, so yeah, by tag, right? Tag name. So these are general locators we have in our Selenium, right? Uh, so there are so there is something called document object model. Just a minute. Okay. Okay. So we have something called document object. What's a DOM actually? What is a DOM? Hello.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Whenever a website loads, so there is something called this DOM, document object model knows loads also, right? So this document object model is a kind of a tree-based structure that is a representation of the entire web page, right? It has some specialized tags for each and every purpose. For forms, it has some different tags. For headers, for body, for divs, it has some different tags. So each has some different purpose actually. Um, we'll just try to cover some of the basics here. And header tag, we know in the header tag only this title and those. Generally, scripts are placed in header tag. Scripts can be placed anywhere. Script tag can be placed inside the body, inside the header, anywhere it can be placed. Script tab is where this JavaScript is executed. Okay? And we have this meta to say which are third party, what to say, static files that has to be there, or some information about what kind of contents are there, and its origin, referrer, everything is there in meta. And we have this body, right? And inside the body only we have the actual content of the web page. So this div is a divisions of each web page. So it will separate each and every div as a separate container inside our web pages. Container is something which is a place in a web page which holds us certain particular elements. So div is a division of our web pages into containers. Again, one more time, script is there in the body also. And style is where we give the CSS, right? So every web page will contain basically will contain an HTML structure, a JavaScript, and CSS. So these are the basic composition of a web page, right? So we can identify, for example, if we wanted to identify this particular element, there are no ID given here. So probably I can identify with this name. This Q is the general name given for the search in Google text input form, right? And I can use any of these attributes also if I'm referring XPath, and those things are there. And if there is a ID, then you can always go for ID. Here I can go for name. Name will be unique for this particular form. So name might be unique, might not be unique, but you have to be careful with that. But ID is always unique. Right? And if I wanted to, okay, let's type something actually. Let's type Selenium itself here. And if you see here, the document object model reloads, right? So one thing to note is that document object model is kind of very dynamic actually. It what to say, our browser will update this DOM very frequently. Even for Ajax calls, it will get updated. It's not like once you go for a new page on, or once you refresh the page, the DOM gets updated. We all know about Ajax calls, like XHR calls, uh, which will this will be centered in the background as an XML HTTP request as an Ajax calls. Even for those kind of calls, this DOM will get replaced, or I mean, it will be get refreshed. So we have to be very careful with this DOM structure actually. So a thumb rule of selecting any web element is like, don't select any web element where there are numbers, right? For example, uh, we might think of using something like this, right? Margin, height, margin, top margin attributes and all. And even if there are names with certain, there are certain conditions or certain scenarios where there are name attribute itself with certain numbers, like let's say form if there is a form input hyphen 101202, something there. So if you see this no number kind of things, just ignore that particular xpath. Not only xpath, just ignore that locator, because numbers are always going to change. So am I making sense here? We'll try to. And we have this anchor tag, a tag for this, but a tag specializes in the links, right? So we always give the links in the anchor tag or a tag. We always give this header sections, header sizes in h1, h2, or h3 tags. I mean, those things, I mean, you have to aware, or you have to say those things again. Everyone, can you respond?
Yeah, Karthik.
Okay. So we'll try to use these basic examples actually. I'll try to sort this out. So generally, if we have, let's say, all the locators are there in our web page. So what is the first locator that you have to look for, or what is the first locator that we have to give importance for?
ID.
Yes, ID, but why?
For me, I think it's easable to access, or otherwise, it's a unique, I guess, for each attribute,
Eh,
probably.
Yes, it's a unique ID for each attribute. So it is always better to go for ID. In the second case, name. Uh, so one more advantage of ID is it is very fast actually. So since ID is kind of unique, to search Selenium for to search certain DOM elements based on ID is very easy and very fast for it. So if you want speed, so better to go for ID. And some case even reliability, if you want reliability, better to go for ID, because most unreliable but most powerful selector according to me is actually CSS selector. We don't use that much in real-time projects, but it is very powerful. But it is unreliable because CSS always gets changed, right? CSS selector may be combination of many things, ID, CSS, and the tag names, but generally it is a kind of a least priority. but selection of that is actually very, very powerful actually, right? We'll try to do some things. And generally xpath is kind of very, very slow because it has to compile some xpath to find certain element based on the DOM structure, right?
Karthik, why CSS locator is more reliable? I didn't get it.
No, actually css selector is very powerful but less reliable.
Okay, and more reliable is ID.
id, name and xpath actually,
Okay.
and in some cases link or partial link text. So these are the main things which we, even if you see my real-time project also, I'll show my real-time project. Uh, See, most of the times we are taking this xpath only, right? Even id, most of the time developers are not giving nowadays because uh, they are using certain frameworks, right? Like Angular, Ember, React JS. Now what happens is like these developers don't give IDs actually. This framework by inherently by default don't support. They have support for giving ID. I don't say it's not a support. It's not the right word. Uh, it's not enforcing you to give ID every time this framework. Right? So every time we have to rely on XPath to take these things, right? So that is the problem.
And why CSS is less reliable? Like, what could be the reason for that?
Uh, okay, the CSS is something which is a combination of multiple. Actually, the CSS thing which is coming to Selenium is actually coming from a developer's perspective, developer side actually. So when we know what's the CSS, right? What's the CSS?
Cascade sheet, something
Yeah,
like
cascade style sheet. But what's the purpose of CSS?
that. Not sure.
Okay, every element, every web page contains these three components: that is HTML, JavaScript, and the CSS. HTML gives a structure of the particular web page. Right? So here I have some a list of links given here, might be in the tabular format, and here I have certain elements here, and certain links are given. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Just give me 2 minutes, guys. I'll be back.
Sure.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. So we have this web page where we have all these kind of elements, right? Maybe it is listed in tabular format and this is in some tabular format. So what happens is like generally CSS can be specified in two three ways actually for developers. So one is specifying a style tag in the headers itself. Actually, I'll show. Right, there are three type of CSS actually. So internal CSS is something like you specify the style tag and you specify all the styles related inside the style tag itself of a particular attribute, right? And in internal CSS is kind of using this tags internally in the particular HTML web page itself, like this, uh, by giving something like this dot class. Dot represents always a class attribute. For example, if I have certain web page here, every element will have this class, right? This class is mainly given to segregate the elements based on certain criteria. You can segregate elements based on and or criteria actually. For example, I can give multiple class names. Here they are given three class names, right? CD, some random strings, big and mini div and all. So you can apply this class to any other attribute. For example, some other class may not contain this CDV and may contain this big and mini div. So you can filter based on these classes also. So I just filter the elements and which are having these classes only big and mini div, like that, right? So filtering is very easy if you apply multiple classes and multiple over the multiple tags or multiple elements, right? So based on this filtering, what they do, they select all these classes, right? So they select all these classes with this property and with this value, and they apply this CSS actually. Maybe I mean it will be a little confusing for you, I think they say. Okay, this x left col is a CSS like this. It's just a CSS like this. Uh, so x left col is something which is given here inside a class attribute, and they have given applied some styles over it. It should be floating in the left, which should be 33%. Background color should be this, and a class is always represented by this dot. Class, which I mean is not Java class. This class attribute class is always represented by dot, and the ID is always represented by this hash. Right? So what happens is like when this particular sheet, there is a particular sheet called some random file.cxs with a CSS extension. Okay, you create what developers generally do, they create this .css file and put it in the project folder, and they, like this example which we have seen, right? They take every element with a class or with ID and apply the styles over there, right? So this sheet is kind of regularly maintained, or it's kind of used regularly, because as you add up elements over your web page, uh, the combination of classes which we are using inside this particular uh, file will be changed. This is not a good article to show that. Okay. I think this is better. I think yes. So inside an HTML document, you can have something like this, right? Style tag inside a header, or external CSS like this, where you have CSS, yeah, styles.css file defined separately, and you can see here they have used style entirely for a tag itself. Body is a tag in DOM, right? They have used the style entirely for that. And H1T, you can use styles by specifying its tag name also. If you want to specify class, you have to use a dot. If you want to specify ID, you have to put hash, right? Um, so what happens is due to this, heat is regularly maintained, and there are multiple combination of these classes, and even for multiple IDs you're applying different styles. The things are always going to change here. For example, if I wanted to select something by CSS selector, I have to do something like this, right? Either I have to give the tag name dot css dot class name actually, or tag name hash id. So I have to do either of these actually, or combination of this actually, hash id or dot class. mean, I hope I'm not confusing here actually. Searching for some examples. So okay, we'll see some real-time example itself when we see this. But understand that due to this regular maintenance of the CSS sheets and those things, this will always tend to change, and there are no reliable methods to have this because one point of time this particular tag name will have this class, all right, or class or this ID. Uh, Maybe the tag name itself would have changed. For example, this tag name is anchor tag. Let's assume it's an anchor tag, and they have certain ID and href and all. What if they have enclosed that anchor tag suddenly in a div or in an how to say it, table data or table row? So this entire CSS selector is going to fail, right? So you're getting my point, or
Little confused.
okay,
matlab,
okay. I think instead of these vague examples, we'll see some real-time examples itself. Right?
yeah.
We'll see instead. Okay.
Okay.
So, but the key thing to note is like the CSS selectors always will tend to change. That's the problem. But why it is powerful? Because multiple combination is multiple combination. You can select your element actually. That's the biggest advantage with CSS selectors. Okay, we'll see that anyway. Uh, so we have this ID, xpath and css, right? Maybe we'll try to select one thing and we'll try to do something. So we have this find element method, and we have this by class in Selenium where you are passing this by element inside as an argument inside this find element. Let's say we use name here. We see the selectors, right? General selectors that we can select class name or CSS selectors, ID, link text name, partial link text, tag name, xpath. Right. So we'll try to select name. We saw that name as Q, right, inside our Google. So this particular form or form input has a attribute called name and which has an value of Q. So I'm passing that Q. So I'm sending some text to it. Let's say Selenium itself. And I wanted to click this Google search button, right? So what I'll do, I'll just get this input. Actually, you can directly submit, but generally we don't do that, right? If you do driver.submit, most probably it will go. Let's say we are trying to take the xpath of the particular tag. Actually, we can find the xpath using if you just click the control F, you can open this little box you can see in the bottom right. Yeah. So it is for searching xpath. For xpath, some extensions are there in Chrome, but generally I don't suggest to use those extensions actually. Maybe for beginners it's good, but if you wanted to do your things, your own things, or learn things how to do, generally I don't prefer using xpath actually. I don't prefer using those kind of tools to select xpaths. At least it's my thing. Maybe if you wanted to explore, maybe you can try. So it has this value Google search, right? I just copy this. So I have this xpath here. So I have two elements actually. Right? Okay. So the second element only contains the particular searching for the things. Maybe I'll use the so in xpath you can always index your particular elements. We all know that, right? So if there are more than one element matching the particular criteria, you can always use the index of that element to get the particular element. You know, right? So in this case, there are two elements that is matched to the particular criteria which I did. So what I did is like, so I just selected the second element actually, right? By giving two rounded brackets on at each end. Fine, right?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. So we'll try to take this xpath. Maybe we'll use one more thread dot sleep here. We'll try to remove this actually. We'll try to run this. So it's there, it's working fine. Okay. So we see, right? We should not use this red dot sleep generally, but maybe we'll see these weights in a later session. Just we are waiting for the particular thing to load. Then once we see that, we are quitting the browser.
Karthik, can we use submit instead of click here?
Yeah. Actually, what's the thing with submit is like, okay, let's try to do this.
Can't we direct?
No, or we'll try to do something like this. Yes, Sanjal, you're asking something.
Can't we write like in xpath line? Can't we write submit there instead of click?
No, actually, the thing is that we use submit, but we don't submit directly from the. I mean, the submit button is available everywhere, right? For example, you find some random element and the submit button is available. The find element as a subsequent element or continuous chain of elements in file element, right? Generally, we use submit element from the form input itself. We don't submit element by selecting that element itself. Right? The purpose of submit is to submit something from the form input itself, right? What I'm trying to do is like, maybe we'll just use this, and again we'll just find this element and we'll click submit from here itself. Generally, how people submit is like, generally people use submit to submit a form, actually form input, where the user fills first name, last name, email, and there is a submit button. Or people just use login, right, a username and password, and once you just say password and just click on submit, generally people use submit button those scenario. We'll try to do in this way. Mm. Okay, it's happening. Generally we submit from the form, actually doesn't make sense to select a particular button and click on submit or click, doesn't make sense, right? No, you're getting my whole point.
Yeah, so we can use like any button, you mean? Click
No, no,
or
no, 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 no. It's not any button. What I'm trying to suggest is like, see, uh, you have this Google web page here. Uh, what's the point of going finding this element and clicking submit? Submit is something which is specifically used to submit a form kind of input, right?
Okay, okay. You mean it's a force submit. We are not finding an element, and clicking is something, finding an element and clicking over it, and submit is just to force submit. Like we are not finding any element to submit. Matlab, where there is no button of clicking the element, we use submit, if I'm not wrong.
Actually, I didn't get your point, Angel.
No, actually, no, actually, what Karthik was saying was form in the sense. Sorry to interrupt you, Karthik.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, what he was trying to say is when you're trying to use form structure, okay, where you have logins, okay, or forgot password, okay, such things which goes to database, right? Okay, maybe that is what he's trying to say, which is mean by forms, where you can click directly use the submit, okay,
Yeah,
the
where there
method.
is no click button over there.
No, Achal, no. For everywhere you will have a click button, right?
Okay.
It doesn't. It's that we have the click button in most of the places. It's not that. But
Okay.
what Karthik was trying to mention was, assuming, just imagine a picture. You have user ID and a password fields. Okay, that goes and saves and verifies at the back end with your database. Okay, which is a form. Okay, assuming now you got some Google form which you are entering your details. Okay, right? Those details will, when you enter such kind of a forms, okay, there you can use submit, he's saying. Okay, not that it doesn't have a click button. Most of the places you'll have a click button, definitely.
Okay.
Okay, as either you will have cancel or login, or you got forgot password, something will be there. But
Okay.
he's trying to mention that like when you're using form structure, so there you can use submit instead of going for click.
Got it.
Hope I made it clear. But
Yeah, matlab you guys mean ki like if it is a form structure, then like for the username and password, then we can directly use submit over there.
we
Otherwise,
can use it. It's not a
we
we can directly use it. We can also use submit instead of a click. Okay,
okay.
we can, but it's not mandatory or it's not compulsory mode of approach,
Okay.
right, Karthik?
Yes, one more important thing also to note is like, see, most of the forms, what they give is like in the submit button. This is actually kind of submit button, right? The different name Google says. This type is called submit. If you know this attribute, there's a type called submit. Because of that only we are able to submit the form. Are you getting it right? Generally, the form kind of things will have this type called submit. Um, but we should also understand that this submit may be there, may not be there. You're getting it right. So generally, if the type is not submit and you're clicking the dot submit, it might not work.
Okay.
So this submit thing is actually very important.
Got
Right.
it.
So yeah. So this is kind of very important actually. This submit to. So we always what we'll do. Generally, we don't do dot submit. We generally find that element and do dot click. It's always safer way to do that, right? And as Shiva said, it's kind of a form submission kind of thing where you don't have to necessarily find the element and click submit. You are at the end of the form, you have filled everything. Then if you click submit, that makes sense. without finding the particular element itself. Right? For example,
Can't we can use submit after finding an element?
no, see, let me comment this out and okay, not this one. Thing what I'm trying to say is like, see, we are finding that form input, right, which has a name attribute q. This form input is one, and this particular area, right, and we are sending using send keys to send something.
Hmm.
This Google or such or something. If you use send keys, you send something. But what I'm trying to suggest is like, you don't have to necessarily find this particular button to just submit the particular thing. You're getting my point. You can just directly have your what to say, cursor here by typing some send keys. Some text will appear here, right? You can just
Hmm.
stay in this particular element itself in the form, and if you click submit as we did here, we are in that form only, right? And click
Hmm.
on submit, it will also work because its type is submit and it's a form.
Okay.
No, I hope I can
Yeah.
say it, put it in different. No, yes, essential.
Yeah, matlab that's what I was saying earlier. Ki for the submit, we need to find an element. We can directly use submit instead of finding an element, because if we have a type submit in a form itself, we can directly use submit. Though it's not a correct way, but we can directly use submit. Not find. Matlab we don't have to find an element for that. We can directly use submit
How will
after.
you use submit directly?
Like I have typed Selenium like while sending keys, and then after sending keys, I can use dot submit instead of finding an element. Google search.
Ah, what I'm trying to suggest is like, yeah, you are right. You don't have to find this element Google search,
Yeah.
right? So you just have to find the particular field and click submit, right? The for field is the last or previous form input field actually. In this case, we have only one field, such field. So if you are in this position and clicking submit, then it should work.
Karthik, this is Varsha. I have one doubt. I mean, generally, if we have to close any browser, we use driver.close. So in that way, we can't use driver.submit.
Oh, actually, submit button we should see where that is also available, right? Let's say we using driver. We have this close, which is of type WebDriver. Let's to submit. It's not there, right? Actually, so submit is not something which is related to the particular driver instance or a Chrome driver, right? Submit, if you go here, it is something which is available in the web element class, right? So web element is something which, for example, I'll just show some example. Maybe we'll take this and put it in web element itself. Actually,
You just need to delete the driver on the top.
yeah, okay. So its return type is there, right? Mm, okay. So return type of any find element will be a return type of this particular class called web element. Interface I called web element. So what happens is like, if you are finding something, it will return a type of web element. Right? See, this return type is actually web element. You can see this find element. It returns a web element, and which is available in this particular class and particular package and a particular class. So total path is given here, right? So because of its return type is web element, you are able to do something like this. And where this submit method is there, submit method is there in this web element interface itself, uh, which is implemented through some other classes, right? So because of that only, we are able to submit. Even you can directly use this element dot submit, right? Element dot submit, it will work. So because this particular submit is available in the interface web element, and this particular class which is implementing it gives the meaning for this. So this particular submit button, submit method is not available in the driver instance itself, because a driver is to mainly drive our Chrome browser or Firefox browser, right? It's totally related to that. Submit is something which is related to the DOM, right? Document object model, which is loaded inside a web page. So it is not related. You're getting my point?
Yeah, got it.
So yes, you can get this particular I mean, whatever element you're finding, you can get that and put it over and store it in a web element itself, right? So now this can be reused also. I don't have to necessarily go and do everything here. I can just do element.submit also here, right? So what I was trying to suggest is, like, generally don't prefer using submit, because the particular button might have the submit type or might not have the submit type. So it is always safe to go with finding the element and clicking on the element. Always a safer method.
As an example, Karthik, the movie search thing, what I have done. So for that, I have to search for the Lord of the Rings in the search bar, and then I have clicked on submit. In that case, there was no element where I can find an element and click. So that way was the correct way, or have I done any incorrect way of searching the movie?
No, actually, there are no correct ways, incorrect ways. Okay, what actually works and what actually don't work. That is the better
Okay.
thing to say. No, you were saying in the search box you have typed something and you have clicked to submit.
Yeah.
In that case, it worked only, right?
Yeah, it worked, but yeah, I mean to say, do I need to find any element to click over it, or was that fine?
No, it's fine. Submit. The purpose of submit is that only, right?
Okay.
You just do something over the form and click submit, right?
Okay.
Uh, let's say, okay, in this example itself, we'll see actually. We find this element q. We delete this everything. We'll just
Karthik,
element dot.
Karthik,
Huh?
to explain this more clearly, okay, if you can open the new tab once, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay. There we don't have any click to go ahead. Okay. I think to everyone, I think I'm trying to render it probably. If you open the browser, we have the tab or the address bar, what we have the URL where we can enter the URL. There you see there is no enter button. Okay. There definitely need to be submit, right? Assuming you're entering, you're getting the xpath of that where you need to enter the URL. You don't see any enter, like, click or something. Okay, there you can use a submit, because we don't have any enter buttons, or click on the buttons. We don't have any buttons, so we can go with the submit, right? But when you're coming to the actual search in the Google, the home page, you have the options, right? You have the options to choose whichever you want. You have the Google search, you go and click it, or you can go and you also have the search on the magnifying glass you have, right? So it's that where you want to click it and where you want to like, go ahead and do the action. So I think I made it clear, if I'm right. So that's where we differentiate between using the submit and the click buttons, right, Karthik?
Yes, if I can, yeah, you can say that.
Yeah, got it.
See, generally,
Ajal was asking about that IMDA, right? The website. Okay, where he has entering those things, you're entering it, and there is no button. So you need to push it manually to do some action. So you're entering some string of values, and you're asking to do it. So in that instance, we need to definitely push it to find the results. We can So that is where you're, I think you have used submit button, because you're trying to push it and find some result out of it.
Yeah, got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Hope it's clear, but if it's not, you can let me know. I'll try and
Yeah,
help.
my mindset was same little bit. I was clearing my doubt. Matlab, even I too was thinking the same thing only.
No, if I'm trying to say that if there is something more, please let us know. I'll try to
sure.
explain also.
Sure.
Okay, one more thing which I wanted to show is
Karthik,
yes.
while we're at the same page, why can't you? But it's not about why can't. If you can uh, use a submit the method
Okay.
using getting the XPath of the URL path, okay, and doing showing as an example on the top.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Just give me a second. Okay. One thing which I wanted to also show is whatever I did here is an CSS selector actually. So if you see, I have typed input.gsfi. Okay. This GSFI is one of the class name which we are given for this particular field, right? So this has this particular tag called input, and if you want to access any particular class attributes, you use dot notation, right? I hope you can see this particular field. So when you say input.gsfi, then it is identifying this particular element, right? So because we are, what is the notation of CSS selector? Either we can use one of the uses, you can take this tag name and you can use the class name by giving dot notation. Right? We'll try to use this and we'll try to run this actually by CSS selector. Let's see. I hope there's only single. Yeah. Okay, it's identifying and submitting, right? So why CSS selector was not reliable? Why I'm saying is like, see, this particular class will change, right? We don't know whether this particular class will be there or not. GSFI is a class name which is given by Google for this particular field. GSF is a very, very vague and generic notation, right? We don't know what's the meaning of that GSFI also. So it might tend to change. So it's not always reliable to put the CSS selector actually. One more thing is like, so you can use multiple combinations of this CSS selector also. If you see, I've used dot this GSFI dot GLFOIF because there are two classes available for this particular field. It may match any number of fields also for this information. So, but this particular combination matches only this particular field, so we are safe to use here. Right? So you can use multiple combinations like this.
So Karthik, as you said, the class changes for CSS selector. You mean while loading a page, class changes
No, not
every?
loading page. Developers will tend to change these values actually. Today it might be GSFI. After a few days, it might be something we don't know, right? So it's not a reliable way of doing actually.
Okay.
And Shiva, you were saying something.
No, trying to like with regarding the submit method. Okay,
Okay.
if you want to execute and like show it, and we can go over the URL on the top right, where we enter the google.co.in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if we can get the XPath of that and use the submit button, I think it will help to understand what is the difference between clicking and submitting. Yeah.
No, because I think it's a kind of not a good way to show example side, and you generally
Okay.
don't. We can take XPath actually for this for information, but you generally don't take XPath for an address bar actually.
Yeah. Okay. No problem.
We don't do. Maybe we'll try to show a better example. Maybe not this page. Maybe yeah. Maybe this page will help. I think.
Also, one more thing, Karthik. For the Google search, we have used XPath. Can we use ID or any other locators for that?
No, actually, for Google search, ID is not available in this attribute, right? You can see, right?
Okay. ID will.
So ID is not. So nowadays, what happened, as I said previously, right? Nowadays, this modern framework generally don't encourage putting this IDs. You can, developers can put, but it's kind of a very hard task for developers also, because they have to find each and every element in the particular framework, and they have to put the particular ID over there, right? Nowadays, framework, maybe I'll show some examples of a framework also. Um, so this is a front-end framework which we are using. We are using Ember.js actually, right? Now, if you see this structure, so I wanted to give a better example actually. Just give me a second. Okay, maybe I'll show this first. See, this is the front-end framework where they have all the CSS separately, right? This is a typical example actually. So this dot is a class name which is available in that particular page, and they are given these styles actually, right? Uh, they're using combination of dot and hash, right? So this hash represents the particular this name. Hash represents ID of the particular element. So which is this is a placeholder for that, it will be replaced here. And dot represents the class name, which is report -bg, right? So you can use combination of this dot and hash to take out a element which is a combination of an ID and CSS match. So yeah, this is a typical example of a page actually. Nowadays pages are looking like this only in framework actually. See, it doesn't look like an HTML structure itself, right? Because this Angular or Ember or React doesn't have it has support for native HTML pages, but generally pages are created something like this. You can you when use if else condition inside a page inside HTML, which HTML doesn't support. HTML is not a programming language, right? It's a kind of a model. It's a model kind of language, right? It's not a programming language. But when you use this kind of framework, see, this is a h5 tag, right? H5 header tag, but inside h5 header tag, it is supporting this if else condition also. So what they're saying, if some condition matches, then display this particular thing. Put this particular value inside header, or put this particular value inside this h5 tag. Okay. So many possibilities are there, and the model structure of this page is totally different. If you see, we don't initially realize that it is actually a particular web page actually, right? And you can see this class which is given here, right? The class is fm inline block, fm cursor pointer. There are many classes which are given here. So maybe if we try to search this, yeah, they would have given some styles for this particular thing. uh, Find all. Okay. Okay, there are too many things to search for me. Maybe I'll show. Maybe we are going a little off topic. Uh, no, maybe I'll try to show these things in a different day because I'm not able to find that particular file which I'm looking. Fine. Anyway, what I was trying to suggest is like this FM inline block is a kind of a CSS selector, right? This particular style would be defined somewhere in the project. Maybe I'm not able to find currently. So it will be defined somewhere actually, right? Okay. I'm not able to find currently. So the problem with this kind of framework is that they don't support this ID and they don't support this particular using encouraging of ID because it's a extra task for developer to go there and already this kind of templates are there and go and put ID over this particular templates actually. And the CSS is also kind of changing. We saw that on CSS file, right? It's kind of always changing. Because as we add elements over your DOM, the alignment of each element with respect to each other will change, right? It's a very simple uh, web page. If we keep on adding elements over here, for example, this is a top nav bar, right? If we keep on adding elements over here, probably we are trying to squeeze so many elements in so many small area. The alignment or it will go out of place, right? Sometimes you see instead of showing everything here using scroll, it will try to squeeze everything here and it will be looking total kind of mess. So CSS helps to achieve this kind of look oriented designs and all, right? So to achieve this, CSS will always change as we add upon elements. That's the whole point which I was trying to make. Right.
Okay, Karthik.
Okay. I think we can wrap up the session at this point. So we'll just quickly summarize what we saw. There are many selectors: ID, CSS, um, class name, link text, partial link text, xpath, everything. So if ID is there, it's generally good to go for ID. If name is there, next generally we can go for name. But apart from those, it is always good to go for xpath, and sometimes link text or partial link text based upon whether that is available or not. That's usable in the particular page or not. But generally, we use xpath in real-time projects, and we can use submit or we can use click button. Generally, it's favorable to use clicks over submit. And we can also use CSS selector by combination of tag names and class names by using dot notation. If it's an ID, we have to use hash notation. So maybe we'll try to continue this tomorrow also. We'll get a better clarity. Maybe I'll just take 2-3 examples and keep it ready for you to show also instead of searching examples now, right? Fine, everyone.
Yeah, Karthik.
Okay. Thank you for joining.